Super cool. Let's give 30 more seconds. This should hopefully get you familiar with this process. In general, each challenge asks you to complete some certain things, solve a certain puzzle, exploit a certain computer, and then you get something which looks like that. SIGPwny something something. Type that in and get the points. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to hand off to Thomas because we just have one other logistical thing we need to talk to you about for all those new people. I'm just going to stand next to Thomas for the mics.
Okay, hi, Mike. Can Zoom hear me? Yeah, I'm assuming Zoom can hear me. I'm loud enough. So, hey, everybody. I'm Thomas. I used to run the show for a bit from 2020 to 2022. Real quick warning, because rules are written in blood. Before I go any further, we're going to teach you some things that are that you could use legally and in good scenarios, but you could also use them both unethically and illegally. So this is the cover our ass slides. That link right there, all these slides are going to go out at sigpwny.com/presentation. I would really appreciate it if you can read that. It is the CFAA, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Essentially, it protects protected computers, which is almost every single computer that exists. If you do not have explicit permission, if you do not have explicit permission to hack something, then please do not do so. I would really appreciate it. We're not lawyers. We can't give you legal advice. I teach the ethics class here, so I'd be happy to discuss the ethics of this with you. But here's the final thing. We are not suggesting, telling, or implying that you should actually do any of these things on systems we do not give you explicit permission to do them on. By participating in this club and agreeing to our code of conduct, you agree that we have no liability if you go and break the law and get in trouble. This is me warning you now. We will not back you up in court. We will testify against you in court if you break the law with things that we taught you. Great.
Thank you, Thomas. We will teach you how to pick locks, but don't pick locks. So, all right, let's do next slide. Okay, so what we want to accomplish today is get everybody in a Linux shell. And that's the very foundation of CTFing or hacking in general. But what that means is different for every laptop. So for every Mac, Windows, Linux, it's going to be a little bit different. Let's do next slide. So Ravi, our past president, wisely said that the terminal is, quote, it's where things happen. And Ravi is very right in saying that. But first, can I get a show of hands? Who here has a Windows machine? Okay, gotcha. We're going to be mostly focusing on you today. Who has a Mac? Okay, a large majority. All right. And then who here is rolling up with Linux? Yeah, okay. You guys can chill. Y'all can chill today because you already have a Linux terminal, right? And I assume that having Linux, you know how to do that. Next slide. What a terminal is it's a box. It's a window where you can type in commands, right? So a command is going to be like ls that will list the files in a directory. It'll be cd, change directory. You can execute programs within this, right? People on Windows might be familiar with command prompt, PowerShell. Next slide. But we're going to talk about that in a bit. But first, Linux people, congratulations. You can kind of tune out for just the next couple minutes. Next slide. If you're on Windows, there's two ways that you can get a Linux terminal. The first way, and the way that we will teach you how, is using WSL. It stands for Windows Subsystem for Linux. It's just going to give you that nice terminal on your Windows machine. The other way is to do a virtual machine where you fully emulate a Linux computer. If you're on Mac, you're mostly good, right? So you can just use your built-in terminal, which I will show you how to open explicitly here in a bit. But you can also have a virtual machine, which will emulate a Linux computer as well. And there's some technicalities on that we're going to get into in a later meeting for all you Mac folk that want to execute Linux binaries, but we'll talk about that later. Next slide. Okay, so on a Windows machine, like I said, you might be familiar with PowerShell or command prompt. These are also shells or terminals, if you want to put it at that, but they're limited in what they're able to do. And all of our content is about the Linux terminal. And so while you do have some sort of built-in terminal, we'll choose to ignore it. Next. So let's get started setting up WSL for everybody on Windows. Everybody on Windows, I want you to pay close attention. People on Mac, I will come back to you very soon. Every person on a Windows computer, I want you to open the Start button, click the Start menu, pop up the dialog. I want you to open CMDs, to type CMD. I want you to right-click the CMD icon and open as administrator. If at any point in this entire process, people have questions setting up, raise your hand and we will have a helper or admin come up and help you explicitly. Okay, and so that was pop up something like, yes, no dialogue, right? And choose yes. So at this point, I'm assuming that everybody has an administrative command prompt open. Raise your hand if no. I'm seeing thumbs up. This is good. This is good. Okay, can someone, we got a hand? Hassan. Thank you. Okay.
That is a mistake. You do not need to restart.
Oof, I was the one who typed that. I'm sorry. All right. All right. So then what we're going to do is type WSL space -- install. Right. And so this is going to be typing directly in your administrative command prompt. And this is going to do some things. It's going to show some progress bars. It'll do its thing. I don't actually know how long this is going to take, but I'll give it about a minute or two. And then we'll just check in on everybody and see if we need to wait a little bit longer.
If this didn't show up at all, real quick, there's an old method.
We'll address that as needed.
We'll address that.
Is everybody seeing something good? Some scrolling text. I see thumbs up. This is good. This is good. Can I get a show of hands if there's something wrong? Pete, would you mind helping here? Thank you. It's totally good to raise your hand. Also you? Okay. Anakin? Excellent. I see another hand. Okay. I think Hassan is going. You're good. Oh, also here. All right, sounds good. We will get you a Linux terminal today. I see somebody in the back. I'm here as well. Somebody in the back, Min, or okay, here we go. Also here in the front. It is so okay to raise your hand. I would love for you to help you every time. Hands are good. Good, good, good. Let's see. Is anybody watching Zoom? I'm gonna check it on Zoom. See how Zoom's doing. How's Zoom doing? Okay, Michael on Zoom. It says usage. If it says usage, you're good. I think you already have it installed. You're good. Michael's good. Cole's good. Thank you, Cole. Awesome. Good to hear. Excellent, excellent, excellent. This is good. This is good. Any more hands? Raise your hand. Let's get this installed. I see a hand in the back middle. Lynn's on it. Okay, right on. Welcome, welcome. Come on down. Okay, I've got a hand right here. I'll take that one personally. Thomas, actually, could you do here in the green shirt?
Progress for us. Grade ranges.
Okay. I think it can't hurt.
I'm just saying something.
Oh, word. Okay. Thank you, Zoom people. Appreciate that. I think we should reboot. I think we should reboot, right? I'm almost certain based on what I see.
Yeah, like announce that.
Okay, everybody, I think that I will encourage you all to restart. So after you've installed it and it has finished, I encourage you to just start button, restart your computer. Sounds good? Yep. Sounds good. Some people report that the dialog states that changes will only take effect after a restart, which is why I want everybody to restart. And then we'll move on to the next step. This is good. This is good. Any more hands? Hands. I like to see hands. Excellent. Excellent. This is good. This is moving at a great pace. We're going to get everybody's tools installed. If you have your thing set up, see if you can help the person next to you if they don't. And if you both have the person, if both people sitting next to each other have it set up, ask them for your names. Like, get to know the person sitting next to you. I encourage you all to do that right now. There'll be a quiz. This is on the final exam. Zoom, I'm sorry, there's no breakout rooms.
Oh.
How are you doing? Everything good?
Very good, yeah.
Good.
I watch it.
Where's slide go? Hey, best.
Min's hacking away.
Where's slide go?
Earlier.
You're so hot.
And remember, at any point, just raise your hand and we'll stop. We'll help you out. Make sure that everybody's on the same page. We won't leave anybody behind.
One of the.
How's everybody on Zoom? Doing good? All right. Yes, question.
Try and start it.
Yeah, so I restarted my computer and everything. I'm trying to see if it installed correctly, so I'm on the administrator. I just typed WSL, it just keeps, I'm not sure if it's like loading something right now. Or...
In general, you don't have to open administrative anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that's the problem. I think it's unlikely to be, but let's try it without.
Okay.
Oh, here.
That's just
I see. Yeah.
WSL.
Yeah.
So I noticed when you hit start that like, so if you just exit out of this and you go back to the start menu.
Oh,
I got it.
Okay, good. All right, this is good. This is good. Let's see a show of hands if you still need help setting this up. Okay, awesome. Can I get a show of hands of who has rebooted their machine and we're in a state where we're ready to move on? Okay. Good, good, good. So we're going to give it a little bit, couple more minutes. What's up? I see. What's the problem? What's symptoms?
So it's you have to be starting. If you type WSL,
Just a blank space whenever I type WSL. And if you
double.
the install is under the
And
arguments.
everyone else can help with that issue. If you just type WSL.
WSL this is a quote.
Okay. Can we try clicking with Boon too? Just thought. And if so, we might need to do the other steps. I see. We're gonna have to employ the other steps. Check the slides; they're hidden under. Annika's gonna help you with that. Cool. We'll get you sorted. Hey,
Do you have an extra extension cord and power strip?
this is all we have. I encourage you to sit.
Come down here.
Come down here, and
Come right here.
we have
Okay.
power. Yeah.
There's power right here if anyone needs an outlet. And there's lots of seats, so come hang out. I don't need them.
We got a hand right here. Okay. I see everybody with Macs. I see their eyes just glazing over right now. This is good. This is good. Yep, got power right here. Everybody on Zoom good? I'm gonna see what everybody's up to. Awesome, good. If everything goes according to plan, you should be on a screen where it says enter a username. Good.
I got a question of.
Yeah.
What time is this?
We set it an hour. Yeah. But you can stay as long as you want. Sometimes you still. Everything good?
think so. Is that a WSL? Would they restart?
Correct. You're good?
Great.
Right on. Yes.
Is this what I should be seeing?
No. I'll get someone up here. Pete, can you mind helping here? Have you seen? Okay, sounds good. We'll be right with you. Can I get a min check? Where's our friend Min? Okay, I'll be right back. I'm seeing a lot of WSL. This is good. We're almost done here.
Yeah. So what's your issue? My thing is, I mean, I have it, but it's not running like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
I also see this.
so yeah, you can just type the
I was like,
and should
I think
find
I was like
in the command
install
prompt.
this. So I might.
And then will that administrative mode probably, right?
Yeah. So that's what requires.
Now WSL.
Somebody else also has issues.
What is this Ubuntu command supposed to do?
It's supposed to execute Ubuntu because he already installed it. So
I said try administrative mode and then
yeah, try running it.
we might have to come back.
You should need to run it.
Okay.
So just give them a minute and if you have it.
Min. Oh,
I mean, I like the radio.
okay. Try typing Ubuntu.
What?
UBU. TUN. UN. TU.
Oh. Yeah. And that's been
Oh, I type out. You mind if I type it? Sorry, it's hard to spell aloud. Might have given you an improper spell. I see. So let's go to the Windows Store. Microsoft Store. And type Ubuntu here. And I'll be back. How are things over here?
Yeah, so I don't know if I said everything correctly. Seems like it's already installed.
That seems to be. Try typing Ubuntu. See, WSL one more time.
So that doesn't do
It doesn't do anything. See. I'm gonna ask Anakin. I see a similar problem over there. I'll find the solution. Yeah, this one. And I'll come back. Anakin, any idea what's going on with this one?
Yeah, we're going through the alternate installation method, so just letting it install.
Did you notice that the checkbox wasn't checked or something?
It was checked out.
Okay, so we don't know if this. So then you went to the Microsoft Store,
Microsoft Store, installing Ubuntu.
and then what's the plan?
Well, waiting for that to finish, and then we'll see. Yeah.
And then you type what? WSL or Ubuntu? You just don't launch it
Just not say. I'm pretty sure you just launch it
from. Can you be explicit? Like how
from Windows.
I see.
That's my memory from when I used to use WSL.
Yeah.
I've used it.
Word. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
All right. Can I get a show of hands? Who has not seen the username prompt or is not already in the Linux on WSL? Okay, we got a hand over here, and I'll be back up over there in a sec. Min, can you help this our friend in the blue shirts? Thank you, Min.
Progress.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I see. So the current working idea is that we're going to go to the Microsoft Store and click Ubuntu, and that will install what you do. Let's try that. Start menu. And type store. Here. Yeah. And then we do search for Ubuntu. Default's fine. Wait for that to install. And then for our WSL, what we'll do is just open the start and click like Ubuntu. Or you can try again, type WSL or open CMD and type Ubuntu. Each of those three options should, in theory, open yours. I'll check back in on you. Yeah. You're good. Ooh, interesting. This is it. Yeah. And so in the future, let's close everything so that we know how to open it from default. Good. It's successful. This is good. Let's close it. And so then if you want to open WSL, yeah, you can type Ubuntu here. Or you can see it also. You can pin it. Yeah, that's up to you. No need to run as administrator in the future. It's just to install. Yeah. That's it. You're in. That's a Linux terminal. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just demonstrate the commands work. Good. 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 This appears to be the correct solution. Sounds good. Okay, we're looking good. Thank you all for your patience, especially you Mac and Linux folk. I love that game.
So if
Let's
you
move on.
do the old install method, you have to go to the Windows icon type of Ubuntu. Doing WSL with command prompt doesn't work.
Got it. Thank you. All right. So for the sake of time, I'm going to move on to the next slide. I know that there are some people still in the process of installing Ubuntu from the Microsoft Store. If you feel lost, there's just one more step that we're going to do. If you still feel lost, raise your hand and we're going to have somebody there for you. Okay, let's move on. Next slide. Okay, and so if you installed it using the WSL method that we just saw, you're going to be prompted for a username and password. Set that to whatever you want. Your username can be whatever your handle is online, or it can be your first name. That's fine. And just set a password which you won't remember, or you won't forget. But actually, in my defense, it's not a bad idea to never remember your passwords if you use a password manager. But we'll talk about it later. Just don't forget the password. Write it down, maybe, and make it secure. Okay. After that, you're going to have a terminal, so you should be able to type things like ls, cd, netcat, these sorts of things. Let's go next slide. All right, Mac friends, I'm back. Thank you for your patience. Here's your very difficult instructions. Press Command and then space, and that'll open your run dialog. Type terminal, and you're good, right? Yeah, Mac. All right. So this is going to be good enough for our needs today. To get Linux-like commands. It's not truly perfect for our reversing, but we're going to talk about that in upcoming meetings. Let's go next slide.
If you guys still have questions, raise your hand. We'll still be coming around to help you. So if you're moving on, feel free to ask questions.
Yes, as if you didn't hear Anakin, just raise your hand and we will send someone to help you. Okay, that's all from me. I'm going to pass it off. So raise your hands. We'll continue to set up and things. I'm going to pass it off to Anusha, and Anusha is going to explain some common things that you'd like to know when working in a Linux terminal, including file systems and useful commands. I found that it just works best if you just hold them in front of you.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you much. All right. Hello. Oh God. Hello, everyone. Now that you have, or hopefully are in the process of setting up a terminal and have a terminal already, I'm going to explain file systems. So this is kind of what a prototypical file system would look like, right? You have like a ton of folders with files kind of everywhere. How do you get around, especially when you can't point and click, right? Because if you're looking at like, for Mac, it's like the Finder, whatever, like you can click around, click into folders, click out of folders. Everything is intuitive and graphics based. How do you do that on a terminal, right? Because you still want to get around the same way, but you don't have anything to point and click at. Next slide. All right, so CD / that's your root folder. That is the base folder where literally everything on your computer lives. So if you want to get back to root, you can just type that. CD stands for change directory. We're going to be using it a lot. What changing a directory means is literally just going into a folder. So if you want to CD somewhere else, you're going to press CD and type where you want to go. And that will, change the directory to wherever you're going. Next slide. All right, so now we have typed in CD dir A. If you look at the file system that we're using, we are starting from root, which is where the folder we were at. We are changing directory to dir A. So what that does is it moves where you are kind of in your file system, and now you can look at or like you're kind of in your directory A folder. And if you type in ls, which is again the command for list, you'll be able to see kind of everything within that folder. But you're no longer at your root directory, you are somewhere else. That's what CD means. Next slide. Oh, yeah. So CD now starts there. CD used to start at root, but if you try to type like CD dir A again, it is now no longer looking from the root folder. It is now looking within dir A and trying to change directories from dir A. Next slide. It is like it's using relative paths. So if you type in CD dir C, it's not looking from root anymore, right? It's looking within the dir A folder, and it's going to move to the dir C folder because directory C does exist within directory A. So now it'll change where CD is looking at. CD will start from directory C, and now you're kind of in the directory C folder. Next slide. All right, so now if you try looking for dir B, this is what I was talking about earlier. You're no longer looking at root, right? You're looking within the directory C folder. If you look for directory B, it won't exist because all it can see in the directory C folder is file1.txt, right? So it's going to give you it's going to error out and say that it can't find directory B, even though it exists. You're just not looking at the right place. However, if you do CD / dir B, now what that does is it tells CD to start from root. It'll tell it to start from your root directory and kind of look forward. And then it will find dir B because dir B is within root. Also, if you are within dir C, what you can do to tell it to look backwards or to look in folders outside of dir C is use .. What .. tells something to do, next slide. .. tells your CD command to go backward one folder or to move out of the folder you're in into the folder that contained it, right? So even though we start at dir C, the first .. will tell it to move to start looking within dir A. Next slide. The next one will tell it to go look at root. So now, even though you are still within dir C, if you ls, it'll still give you dir C. The CD command is now looking at the root folder because you told it to go back twice. Next slide. And now it can find dir B, even though when you originally did it without the .. you would not be able to find it because it's not actually within dir C. Now you are able to find it. And now that you've done the CD command, you've changed directories to dir B. Now any other command that you do will start at the directory B, including your next CD if you're trying to do that. All right, so how would we get to dir A from dir B, right? Because dir A isn't within dir B, right? And there are a couple ways you can do it. We know that CD starts at directory B, right? And next slide. So there are two ways that you can do it, right? So you can either tell it to start from root and keep looking, right? That's what the /dir a is for. And cd/ will always start at root because that's what root is. And you can find directory A and go from there. The other thing you can do, I think next slide. Yeah. cd ... will start at directory B, go back one, and then look for dir A, right? So it's the same principle, two different methods. It depends how you know where stuff is within your file system. If you know, oh yeah, it's kind of on the same level as dir B, you can use .. Or if you know where it is starting at root, then you can use cd/. All right, absolute paths and relative paths. This is what I was kind of talking about earlier when I said that CD uses a relative path. Absolute paths start at root. So that's the stuff that starts with a /, where it's, starting from root where something is in the file system, right? So if you know that dir A is the next thing after root, you can kind of go from there and be like, oh yeah, this stuff is starting at root here. Here's where it is from dir A onwards. The relative path is kind of partial to where you are in the terminal. So it will no longer start from root. It will start from wherever you are within the actual file system, right? So if you look at those two, like each line, those paths actually correspond. So the first one on the left, it starts at root and it goes root dir A file1.txt. However, when you're trying to cd from within dir A, you can just do file1.txt because it knows that that's a relative path. And when you look at directory A, file1.txt does exist within directory A. So you know that, and so that relative path will be able to find it. Same thing goes for the bottom path, right? The first one always has to start with /dir A because it's starting from root, and then it'll go dir C and then try file1.txt. The relative path doesn't need the /dir A because you're already within directory A. It'll just go directory C, file1.txt. Another thing you might want to note, those file names are the same, but they point to different files because file1.txt within directory A is a different file from file1.txt within directory C, but they can be named the same because they're in different places. If you've ever tried to download the same file multiple times, that's the reason why it will either yell at you to change its name or add the one after things because you're trying to add the same named file to the same directory. But if you move it out of the directory, you can have two files named the exact same thing and no one cares. Next slide. This is kind of a visual indication of the stuff I was talking about, right? Where if you're starting CD at directory A, you can either use absolute file paths to go from the root on to some file1.txt, or you can just use file1.txt to find the file one that's within directory A. Next slide. Yeah, so this kind of shows all the different paths that you can use. So if CD starts there, you can either do CD dir C, that'll take you to directory C, no problem. You can use CD /dir C. What that does is it tells you to look at, it tells the CD command to look at the file that, the folder that you're in, and then look for dir C. Or CD dir C /, it'll be the same thing. So all those three commands point to the same thing. Yeah, so they're equal, and you can do any one of those. It's kind of up to personal preference at that point. I do the first one because I'm lazy. But yeah, any number of // will be the exact same thing. Just, why would you type that? That's a lot of typing to do for no affect. But it's just conventions. Cool. Other useful commands. So we've talked a lot about CD. We've talked a lot about ls. What do any of those mean, right? ls directory, it'll list the files in your current directory or whatever directory you specify. Super useful when you want to figure out where you are or where you're trying to get to, or if a file exists within your file system, right? CD, that's the one that we just talked about for ages. It changes your directory to whatever you specify. You can specify paths in a million different ways, depending on where you want to go and what you're trying to do, but it's very useful. MV is move. So you give it two things, a source and a destination. And it moves some file from the source to the destination. You can also use that to rename files, which is super useful. So, if you want to rename a file for some reason, you can just move it from the given source and just change the file name and give it the same destination. RM removes files. That isn't reversible. If anyone has heard rm/rf or -rf, just be really careful with the rm command because it will delete a file and you cannot get it back. It's not like the trash bin. It doesn't move it to the trash bin. It just full on deletes it. So be careful, but it is useful when you want a lot of things to go away very quickly. Cat. Cat prints the contents of the file. Sometimes it might print gibberish. If you've ever tried to cat like binaries, that's not going to be human readable. We think about why that might happen. We will show you why that happens, I think, in later meetings. But cat is very useful when you're trying to kind of look at files, especially text files or like code. Dot file. That executes whatever is at files. So if you want to run like some code, if you have like, I don't know, like a Python script that you want to run, then /file will execute it. So, nothing else necessary. Whatever the name of the file is, yeah. Well, yeah. But, give it the actual name of the program that you're trying to run, but, /file will execute that. And man commands, man is really, really useful because it's basically your help pages. If you don't know what a command does, or if you want to figure out specific flags for something, you can type man and then the command you're curious about. And it will give you like all the parameters, and it'll give you all the options, and it's super useful when you don't know what you're doing. So if you want to try like manning commands that you've like heard us talk about, it's a good way to get a refresher on what it actually does and how to use it, right? So this man will be your best friend, especially in some of your CS classes. If you're like a freshman, look forward to 341 because you will be using man a lot. Next slide. All right, Netcat. So Netcat lets you connect to an IP on a port. Netcatting is very useful when you want to connect to like a specific port on a server to do something fun. We will be using Netcat for some of our challenges. We'll tell you to connect to this address and this port, and there will be a challenge there waiting for you. So very useful. Yeah. SSH, that gives you a secure remote shell. So you'll run an instance of the shell as a user at the IP address. If you're a CS student, a lot of you might be a little more familiar with SSHing, depending on what classes you're in. But it's super useful when you want to, work remotely. Ping. Ping's an IP, and it like tries to see whether it's up. It can be blocked by firewalls, but if you want to check like is your server that you are setting up for some reason, if it's running, ping is good. Curl works on URLs, and it lets you access them from the terminal, right? So it's a good network access tool, but you mainly use it to just like look at websites. So you can like you can do curl URL and see what's up. wget. It works on URLs the same way. It downloads files it downloads whatever file is at the URL. So super useful for like a million different things, especially if you're working on the terminal and want to get files off of the URL. Use wget. It's useful.
해볼 게임은 얼마나
Next slide.
아이콘 왜 이러 커서가 왜 이러냐? 메시지.
Cool. Networking fundamentals real quick. We talked about Netcat a little bit earlier. So Netcat is part of networking because you're trying, you're using cat to connect to certain things. So NC-L port, it will open a network socket to like listen on like a specific port. So if you give it like NC-L 500 or 5000, it'll open port 5000. And if you have an IP in a port, you can do netcat IP port, and that'll open a connection to the specific IP in port. A port is just like a communication endpoint. There are like, there are 65,000 of them. Some like, they're kind of, some of them are like reserved for specific things or useful for specific things. But a lot of them you can play with kind of as you want. We are going to demo this.
야, 춤추면서 오는데 스트리밍 모드를 키면 춤추면서 야야 부친이다.
We're showing NetCat listen. It's the NetCat listen. You want to just skip to first show? Okay.
Oh, can you?
All right, jump to first show.
Connected to the first.
Oh,
Solve the first show.
yeah.
Okay, sure.
So I'm going to bring
Here,
up.
min.
Yeah. Hey, log into this.
Hi, everybody. Min's signing into things. So I mean the camera at me. Oh, you have like a personal burner?
Oh crap. That's not what I wanted to do. Go away. Go away. Go away. Go away.
Just make a dummy account.
Make a dummy account?
Yeah.
Sorry guys, technical difficulties. I'll do it from the sides. It's fine.
You're sharing screen.
Yeah.
I just walked through.
Why are we sharing screen? Oh yeah, we're sharing screen. Yeah,
How'd you
okay, here. So, here's our CTFD. So we've got our challenges. The first challenge that we do have is NetCat. All right. So if you guys haven't solved this yet, you can just connect to child.sigpwny.com and then connect to port 5000. So I'll show it off right now. This is our CTF.
Child@sigpwny.com.
Okay.
Yep.
Did I type something wrong?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, cool.
Please stop that.
So the syntax of the command was netcat, type in the IP address, which is child.sigpwny.com, and then the port number is 5000. So you can see we got our flag from that. So if you haven't done the challenge, you can do it, or you can type the flag that's on the screen right now.
Oh. All right, right on. Thank you, Min and Anusha, for that. I don't, there should be a lot more than 43 solves in that challenge. I want, before everybody leaves, I want everybody to be able to solve that one challenge, right? So you open up your terminal, which you just installed. You type that string, that netcat command. You'll get the SIGPwny flag. You type that into the box, you get 50 points. And then there are two more challenges right after that I encourage you to do afterwards. The first one asks you to type in a single character, and it helps familiarize something called the ASCII table, which is not something we talked about here, but I encourage you to read on your own. You should have everything you need to solve in the description and using the hints. There's never any cost for hints. I really just want everybody to be able to solve these problems and learn from them. Okay, next slide, I think it's just our wrap up. Okay, and then finally, there's also a sequence of bandit challenges, right? And so in the description, starting with bandit 0, it will tell you how to connect to them, and you can continue to explore Linux commands by solving these challenges and getting points for it in our internal CTF. If at any point you need questions or help on these things, like raise your hand, I want to help you. But if all else, I want everybody to solve that first netcat challenge that we just did together. Next slide. So this also, real quick, we're just gonna break this down. If you were to type this command into your Linux terminal, the first string, SSH, that's the command, right? Secure shell. Bandit 0 is the username that you're connecting to. This will make sense after you read Bandit 0 website. Like, I don't expect this to make sense to you right now. I just want to break this, just get opportunity to explore, what commands are. And then the SSH thing takes IP or a name, right? And we're going to connect to this domain on the port 2220, right? And so this doesn't make sense to you right now, and that's fine. I encourage you to first read the Bandit 0 website, and this will make a lot more sense. Next slide. So we're going to wrap it up here. At this point, everybody has a Linux terminal, and that's something to be proud of, and we're going to be using that a lot this coming semester. Everybody should have an account on the internal CTF platform. I would love to see every person solve all 3 of those challenges for today. If all else, just the one netcat challenge. This Thursday, we're going to do web hacking. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I encourage you to be here, bring your friends, and we're going to go over web fundamentals, web basics, and hacking websites, right? It's going to be a lot of fun. This Friday, we're going to be playing in Seesaw, as I told you before. I want every single one of you to come. I want every single one of you to come. I want to roll up with a 100-person team, and I want to kick some serious ass. Everybody be there. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have pizza. Then next Sunday, a week from today, again, we're going to be meeting here, and we're going to be talking about Web 2, advanced web hacking. More details about that to come. And with that, that sums up the meeting for today. Thank you all for being here. Come talk to us if you have questions. Otherwise, you all are free to go. Thank you so much for being here. Join us on web hacking on Thursday. Yes.
Otherwise, it's coming out.
It's going to be in the slides channel in Discord. It's going to be on our website as well.
And are we?
Here, except for the one on Friday, we'll be upstairs. We'll always say it in the announcements, Jim. Yeah, of course.
And I have my backpack.
Thank you for being here, Zoom as well.